My parents laughed in my face. "You'll never be as good as your brother." That was the moment everything changed. For 35 years, I'd been the family's silent ATM, paying their mortgage, their car loans, their vacations. Meanwhile, my brother Jake lived rent-free in their guest house, doing absolutely nothing. But that dinner, when they compared me to him one more time, I finally said what I'd been holding back for decades. "Then tell Jake to pay all the bills. I'm not sending money anymore." The room went dead silent. My mom's face turned white. "What money? We never received a single dollar from you." And that's when I realized the truth. If you've ever been the invisible child in your family while your sibling got all the praise, this story is for you. Hit subscribe. By the end, you'll see how I turned years of gaslighting into the freedom I deserved. I'm Rebecca Martinez, and this is the story of how I finally broke free. The dining room felt smaller than usual that night. Same oak table my parents bought 30 years ago. Same floral centerpiece Mom rearranged every Sunday. Same uncomfortable silence while we waited for Jake to grace us with his presence. I sat there in my work clothes, navy blazer, silk blouse, heels I'd kicked off under the table because my feet were killing me after a 12-hour day. I'd just closed a deal worth $2 million for my company. Vice President of Operations at 35, corner office in Chicago, 6-figure salary. But none of that mattered here. "Rebecca, honey, could you pass the rolls?" Mom's voice had that particular sweetness she reserved for asking favors. I handed them over, watching Dad check his phone for the third time in 5 minutes. "Jake texted," he announced, grinning. "He's going to be a few minutes late, working on his new business venture." My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Business venture. That's what they called it when Jake spent 18 hours a day playing video games and calling it building his online brand. "That's wonderful," I said, keeping my voice neutral. I'd learned that trick years ago. Never show emotion. Never compete. Just smile and nod. "He's really coming into his own," Mom added, her eyes lighting up the way they never did when I talked about my promotions. "Your father and I are so proud of him for finally finding his passion." Finally. He was 33 years old. I took a sip of water and thought about the email I'd sent that morning. The one confirming my monthly transfer of $3,500 to the account Jake had set up for family expenses. Same as I'd done for the past 10 years. The front door opened and Jake walked in wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt with a pizza stain on it. "Sorry I'm late," he said, not sounding sorry at all. He kissed Mom's cheek and clapped Dad on the shoulder before dropping into his chair. "Got caught up in a strategy session with my business partner." Business partner. I knew for a fact he meant his gaming buddy in Colorado. "No problem, son," Dad said. "Rebecca was just keeping us company." Just keeping them company. Like that's all I ever did. Mom served the pot roast, the same meal she made every Sunday when I visited. Jake immediately grabbed the biggest piece. "So, Rebecca," Dad said, cutting into his meat, "how's work?" This was my moment. I'd rehearsed it in the car on the drive over. "Actually, I have some exciting news. I got offered—" "Speaking of work," Jake interrupted, turning to our parents. "I wanted to run something by you guys. There's this incredible opportunity to invest in a dropshipping course. It's only $5,000, and the instructor guarantees you'll make it back in 3 months." I watched Mom and Dad lean forward, completely engaged. My news forgotten before I'd even finished the sentence. "That sounds promising," Dad said. "Well, what do you think, Rebecca? You're good with money. Should your brother pursue this?" Should my brother pursue this? Not could I help him evaluate it. Not was it a legitimate opportunity. Just, should Jake do whatever Jake wanted to do, funded by money that somehow always appeared when he needed it? "I'd need to see the details," I said carefully. "A lot of those courses are scams." Jake's face darkened. "See? This is exactly what I'm talking about. You never believe in me?" "That's not—" "Your brother is trying to better himself." Mom cut in, her tone sharp. "The least you could do is be supportive." I stared at my plate. At the pot roast I'd eaten at this table 1,000 times. At the pattern on the china that hadn't changed since I was 7 years old. "You're right," I said quietly. "I'm sorry." Jake smiled, vindicated. The conversation moved on. It always moved on. Later, while Mom and I cleared the dishes, Jake had disappeared back to the guest house. I tried again. Mom, I wanted to tell you. I got offered the VP of Operations position for the New York office. It's a huge promotion. She rinsed a plate, not looking at me. That's nice, honey. But don't you think you're away from family enough already? You barely visit as it is. I visited every other weekend. I called 3 times a week. I sent money every single month. It's a really big opportunity, I said. Opportunities come and go. She finally looked at me, and her expression was distant. Family is forever. You know your father and I worry about you, working so hard, never settling down. Meanwhile, Jake is building something real. Building something real. With my money. Don't forget to send the check this month, sweetheart, she added, drying her hands on a towel. Your father's car insurance is due, and you know how he stresses about those things. I nodded. I always nodded. The next morning, back in my apartment in Chicago, I sat at my kitchen counter with my laptop open. My banking app showed the usual transactions: rent, groceries, student loans I'd paid off 2 years ago. And there, like clockwork, the monthly transfer to family support. $3,500 every month for 10 years. I did the math. 120 months, $420,000 total. My chest tightened. I pulled up my phone and scrolled through old text messages with Mom. Found the one from last year when I'd asked if they needed anything for Christmas. Mom, you do so much already, sweetheart. Maybe just help with Jake's car payment this month? He's having a rough time. Another one from 2 years ago. Mom, your father needs new glasses. Can you send a little extra? And another from 6 months ago. Mom, Rebecca, honey, the water heater broke. Could you possibly help out? Every single time I'd sent money, never questioned it, never asked for proof, never wondered why 2 people with a paid-off house and decent retirement savings needed constant financial help. Because I was the good daughter, the responsible one, the one who fixed things. My phone buzzed. Text from Dad. Dad, Jake's lease on the guest house is up next month. He's thinking about getting his own place but needs help with the deposit. Can you chip in? Maybe $2,000? I stared at the message. Jake lived in their guest house. Had lived there for 5 years, rent-free. I typed out 3 different responses and deleted them all. Finally, I'll think about it. That afternoon, I had my regular therapy session with Dr. Chen. I'd been seeing her for 2 years, originally for work stress. Lately, our sessions had started focusing more on family dynamics. So your parents didn't even acknowledge your promotion news, Dr. Chen said, not as a question. They were excited about Jake's opportunity, I said. That's understandable. He's been struggling to find his path. Rebecca. Dr. Chen set down her notepad. How much money have you sent your family in the past decade? I told her. Watched her eyebrows raise. And in that time, has Jake contributed anything financially? He's been building his business. What business? I opened my mouth to answer and realized I couldn't. I didn't actually know. Gaming content, maybe? Online something? He'd had dozens of ventures over the years. None had produced income as far as I knew. I'm going to ask you something, Dr. Chen said gently, and I want you to really think about your answer. If Jake were a friend, not your brother, and he'd taken nearly $500,000 from you while giving nothing back, and your parents praised him constantly while dismissing your achievements, what would you call that relationship? I knew the answer. I'd known it for a while. Toxic, I whispered. And what do we do with toxic relationships? Set boundaries, I said automatically. It's what she'd been teaching me for months. So what boundary feels right here? I thought about the New York job, about the apartment I'd been looking at online, pretending I couldn't afford it even though I absolutely could, about the life I could have if I stopped being the family bank. I don't know if I can, I admitted. They're my family. Dr. Chen nodded, not pushing. She never pushed. Think about it, she said. That's all I ask. The following weekend, I drove back to my parents' house. I'd promised to help Dad with some yard work, a promise that usually meant me doing yard work while he supervised. But when I arrived, I found Jake in the driveway, leaning against a brand new Audi. My stomach dropped. "Hey, sis!" he called out, grinning. "Check out the new ride. Just picked her up yesterday." I walked closer, trying to keep my expression neutral. The car was beautiful, metallic blue, leather interior, probably $60,000. "Where did you get this?" I asked. "I told you my business was taking off." He ran his hand along the hood lovingly. "Just closed a major deal. Decided it was time to treat myself." A major deal. Jake, who'd never held a job for more than 6 months, who lived in our parents' guest house rent-free. "What kind of deal?" His smile faltered slightly. "You know, online stuff. Investment opportunities, crypto. You wouldn't understand." I wouldn't understand. Me, the VP of operations who analyzed 7-figure deals daily. "Mom and Dad must be thrilled," I said. "Oh, they don't know yet. Wanted to surprise them." He checked his watch. "Actually, Dad asked me to help with the yard work, but I've got a meeting. Can you cover for me?" Before I could answer, he was backing out of the driveway, leaving me standing there with the smell of new car and the taste of something bitter in my mouth. I didn't do the yard work that day. Instead, I sat in my car and opened Instagram on my phone. Jake's profile was public. I scrolled through months of posts I'd somehow never looked at closely before. Photos of expensive dinners, Vegas trips, concert tickets, the Audi, a Rolex watch, designer clothes, each post tagged with hashtags like the self-made hustle mode. Built not bought. Built not bought. My hands were shaking. I opened a new browser tab and typed in a search I should have done years ago: how to check where bank transfers go. 30 minutes later, I was on the phone with my bank. "Ma'am, I can confirm that all transfers to account ending in 7342 have been processed successfully," the representative said. "And that account, who's it registered to?" A pause. Typing. "That information shows the account holder as Jake Martinez. Would you like me to send you the full transaction history?" "Yes," I said. "Please." The email arrived while I sat in my parents' driveway. I opened it, saw 10 years of transfers laid out in black and white, every single deposit, every $3,500, going into Jake's personal account, not my parents'. Jake's. My vision blurred. I read it again, certain I'd made a mistake. But no, there was his name, his account number, his banking information. A text came through from Mom. "Honey, are you coming in? Dad's wondering about the yard work." I looked at their house, at the home I'd grown up in, at the windows where warm light glowed and family photos lined the walls. And I thought about the money, $420,000, given freely, sent faithfully, for a decade, to my brother, who'd bought an Audi, while my parents praised him for being self-made, and told me I'd never be as good as him. I started the car and drove home. Didn't text back, didn't call, just drove. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept refreshing Jake's Instagram, looking at months and years of posts. Each expensive purchase documented, each one time-stamped. I cross-referenced them with my bank statements. New motorcycle, 2 weeks after I'd sent money for Mom's medical bills. Trip to Cancun, 1 week after I'd covered emergency car repairs. The Rolex, same month I'd sent extra for property taxes. He'd been stealing from me for 10 years. And my parents, did they know? I pulled up the family group chat, scrolled back through years of messages, found one from 3 years ago. Mom, "Jake, honey, did Rebecca's money come through for the roof repair?" Jake, "Yeah, got it. Contractor is scheduled for next week. There'd been no roof repair. I'd driven past the house that month. The roof looked fine. Still looked fine." My phone rang, Mom calling. I didn't answer. She called again, then Dad, then Jake. Finally, a text from Mom. "Rebecca, what's going on? You just left without saying anything. Dad is hurt." I typed back, "I need some space." 3 dots appeared immediately. Mom, "Space from what? We're your family. You can talk to us." Could I? Could I really? I thought about Dr. Chen, about boundaries, about the word she'd used that I'd been too afraid to accept. Toxic. I turned off my phone and opened my laptop. The New York job offer was still in my email, still waiting for a response. I clicked reply and started typing. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur. I ignored 17 calls from my parents, 43 texts from Jake, escalating from casual to concerned to angry, messages from aunts and uncles I barely spoke to, all saying the same thing. Your mother is worried sick. What's wrong? What's wrong? As if I were the problem. I met with a lawyer, a woman named Patricia Chin, who specialized in financial fraud. This is pretty clear-cut, she said, reviewing my bank statements and Jake's social media. He knowingly misrepresented where the funds were going and used them for personal expenses. You have grounds for a civil suit. Would I win? Almost certainly. The evidence is overwhelming. The question is whether you want to go that route. I sat in her office looking at the Chicago skyline through her window, thinking about family dinners and pot roast and the way Mom used to braid my hair when I was little. I don't know what I want, I admitted. Then let me ask you this, Patricia said. What do you need? I thought about that question for 3 days. What did I need? I needed the truth. I needed my parents to know where their money had actually come from. I needed Jake to face consequences. I needed to stop being the invisible child who fixed everything while getting nothing in return. I needed to be free. On a Friday evening, I drove back to my parents' house one more time, unannounced. They were all there, Mom, Dad, and Jake, sitting in the living room watching television like a normal family, the scene I'd wanted to be part of my entire life. Rebecca! Mom jumped up, relief flooding her face. Oh, honey, we've been so worried. Where have you been? We need to talk, I said. My voice didn't shake. I'd practiced this. Dad muted the TV. Of course, sweetheart. Sit down. I'll stand. Something in my tone made them all freeze. I pulled out my phone and opened the banking app. For the past 10 years, I said slowly, I've been sending you $3,500 every month for family expenses, for emergencies, for whatever you needed. Mom nodded eagerly. Yes, and we've been so... I wasn't sending it to you, I continued. I was sending it to Jake. The room went silent. Jake's face lost all color. What? Dad said. What are you talking about? I turned the phone around, showing them the transaction history. Every single transfer, $420,000 over 10 years, all deposited into Jake's personal account. Mom's mouth opened, closed, opened again. That's not... Jake started. Don't, I said sharply. I have bank statements, transaction records, your social media posts showing purchases that coincide with every emergency you told me about. I've already spoken with a lawyer. Dad stood up, taking the phone from my hand. His eyes scanned the screen, and I watched his face transform from confusion to understanding to something I couldn't quite name. Jake, he said, his voice dangerous. Is this true? I can explain, Jake said quickly. It's not what it looks like. I was going to pay her back. I was investing the money, building capital for... You bought an Audi, I said flatly, and a Rolex, and took trips to Vegas. That's not investing. That's stealing. Mom sank back onto the couch, her hand over her mouth. You told us you were doing so well with your business, she whispered. You said you were self-made. I am, Jake insisted. The business is real. I just needed capital to get started, and Rebecca was always sending money anyway, so I thought... You thought you'd steal from your sister, Dad finished, while we praised you for being successful. It wasn't stealing, it was borrowing. Family helps family, right? Jake looked at me desperately. Come on, Rebecca. You know I was going to pay you back eventually. When? I asked. In another 10 years? 20? When were you going to tell Mom and Dad the truth about where your money came from? He had no answer. I turned to my parents. Did you know? Of course not, Mom said, tears starting to fall. Rebecca, honey, we had no idea. We assumed the money went straight to us for... For what? I interrupted. You have a paid-off house, Dad's retirement, Mom's pension. What emergencies needed $3,000 a month? They looked at each other. I saw the moment they realized they'd never questioned it, never wondered, never asked, because it was easier not to. We should have verified, Dad said quietly. We should have asked more questions. Rebecca, I'm so sorry. Sorry, I repeated. The word felt hollow. You're sorry. For 10 years of telling me I wasn't good enough, for comparing me to him. I pointed at Jake. For missing every single achievement I had because you were too busy praising him for doing nothing. That's not fair, Mom said. We love you both equally. No, I said. You don't. I took a breath, steadying myself. This was it, the moment I'd been preparing for. 3 weeks ago at dinner, you laughed when Dad said I'd never be as good as Jake. My voice cracked slightly. You laughed. While I sat there in clothes I bought with money I earned at a job I worked 60 hours a week for, and I realized something. They waited. I've been trying to earn your love my entire life. Sending money, visiting, being the good daughter, fixing problems, and it was never enough. Jake could do nothing, literally nothing, and you'd call him your golden boy, while I built a career and supported this family and got nothing but criticism. Rebecca, Dad started. I'm not finished. I pulled an envelope from my bag. This is a letter from my lawyer. Jake, you're being sued for fraud and theft. I want every dollar back, with interest. Mom, Dad, this is a copy of all financial records showing where your emergency funds actually went. Do with that information what you will. I set the envelope on the coffee table. I've also accepted a position in New York. I'm moving in 3 weeks. My new number will be for professional contacts only. I won't be answering calls from this family. You can't just cut us off, Mom cried. We're your family. No, I said, and I felt something break open in my chest, something that had been locked tight for 35 years. Family doesn't treat each other like this. Family doesn't take advantage. Family doesn't laugh when you say you're not good enough. I looked at each of them one more time. Mom crying into her hands. Dad staring at the envelope like it might explode. Jake, his face red with anger and shame and something that might have been regret. I hope, I said quietly, that someday you'll understand what you lost. But I'm not waiting around to find out. I turned and walked to the door. Rebecca, please, Mom called after me. Don't do this. We can fix this. We're family. I paused, my hand on the doorknob. You're right, I said without turning around. We could have fixed this about 1,000 times over the past 10 years, but you never wanted to, because the system worked perfectly for you. Jake got praise and money. I got the bill and the blame, and nobody had to change. I opened the door. Good luck, I said. You're going to need it. And I left. In my car, I sat for a moment, waiting for the guilt to crash over me. The voice in my head that always said, go back, apologize, fix it, be the good daughter. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt light, like I'd been carrying something heavy for so long I'd forgotten it was there, and now, finally, I'd set it down. I drove away from that house and I didn't look back, not even once. The panic attack hit me in a Target parking lot 3 days later. I'd been fine, completely fine. Packing boxes, organizing my apartment, responding to work emails about the New York transition, normal things, productive things. Then I saw a woman and her daughter looking at picture frames, and the daughter said, Mom, which one do you think Dad would like? And something in me just broke. I made it to my car before the shaking started, hands trembling so badly I couldn't get the key in the ignition, chest tight, vision swimming. My phone was ringing, had been ringing. I looked at the screen through blurred eyes. Jake. Again. 47 missed calls in 3 days. Texts that started with, we need to talk, and escalated to, you're destroying this family, and finally to, I hope you're happy with yourself. I blocked the number. Then I called the one person I knew would answer. Rebecca? Nora's voice came through, concerned. You okay? I'm in a Target parking lot and I can't breathe, I managed. Stay on the phone with me. Where exactly are you? I told her. She lived 20 minutes away. I'm coming, don't hang up, just keep talking to me. So I talked, about the panic, about the guilt that kept creeping in at 3 a.m, about the voice in my head that sounded like my mother saying, family is forever and you're tearing us apart and how could you be so selfish? "That's not your voice," Nora said firmly. "That's theirs, and they're wrong." She arrived and found me still sitting in my car, phone pressed to my ear, even though she was right there. She opened the door and pulled me into a hug that felt like the first real thing I'd experienced in days. "Come on," she said. "Let's get coffee." We sat in a corner booth at a diner, and I told her everything: the lawsuit, the letter, the way my father's face had collapsed when he saw the bank statements. "I keep thinking I should call them," I admitted. "Apologize. Try to fix it." "Fix what?" Nora asked. "The fact that your brother stole from you for a decade? The fact that your parents enabled it?" "They didn't know, Rebecca." She set down her coffee cup. "They didn't ask. That's not the same as not knowing. They took your money every month and never once wondered where it was actually going or if you could afford it. They just assumed you'd keep giving. That's not ignorance. That's entitlement." I stared at my own cup, at the reflection of the ceiling lights in the dark liquid. "My therapist said something similar," I said quietly. "Your therapist is right. Have you talked to Dr. Chen since it happened?" I shook my head. "Emergency appointment is tomorrow." "Good." Nora reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Because you need to hear this from someone professional. What you did wasn't cruel. It was necessary. You didn't destroy your family. You revealed what it actually was." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, scrolling through my phone, looking at things I shouldn't have been looking at. Facebook, Instagram, the family digital presence I'd blocked but could still see through my cousin Emily's profile. There was a post from my mother, public, posted 6 hours ago. The photo was of her and Dad, looking somber. The caption read, "Sometimes the people you love most hurt you the deepest. Praying for healing and understanding in this difficult time. Family is everything." The comments were full of concerned relatives and church friends asking what happened. Mom responding with vague things like, "Just going through something difficult and appreciate your prayers." No mention of Jake. No mention of the theft. No mention of the truth. Of course not. I scrolled further and found Jake's profile. His latest post was a photo of a sunset with the caption, "When people don't understand your journey, let them go. Your real family will always have your back." Stay strong, Schatzer family first. The comments were full of support. Friends saying, "You got this, bro," and "Real ones know your worth." I wanted to scream. Instead, I screenshot everything and sent it to my lawyer. Me. "Does this count as defamation?" Patricia. "Not quite, but save all of it. If they start making false statements about you specifically, let me know immediately." I put my phone down and stared at the ceiling. Wondered if I was the villain in their story now. The ungrateful daughter who abandoned her family over money. The cold corporate woman who valued dollars over relationships. Maybe I was. Maybe that was okay. Dr. Chen's office felt different the next day. Or maybe I felt different. Raw, exposed, like I'd shed a skin I'd been wearing my whole life and everything was too bright and too sharp. "Tell me what happened," she said, settling into her chair. I told her everything, the confrontation, the lawsuit, the way I'd walked out and hadn't looked back. "And how do you feel about that decision?" she asked. "Terrified," I admitted. "Relieved, guilty, angry, all of it at once." "That's normal. Rebecca, what you did, setting that boundary, that's one of the hardest things a person can do with their family of origin, especially in a culture that tells us family is everything." "Is it wrong?" I asked. "To choose myself over them? Is it wrong to stop someone from stealing from you? No, but is it wrong to remove yourself from a situation where you're consistently devalued and dismissed? No. Then why is it wrong to protect yourself from family members who do those things?" I didn't have an answer. Dr. Chen leaned forward. "Rebecca, I've been treating you for 2 years. In that time, every major source of stress in your life has come back to your family dynamics. The anxiety, the perfectionism, the feeling that you're never enough. That didn't come from nowhere. It came from 35 years of being told your best wasn't good enough while your brother was praised for doing nothing." "They didn't mean to hurt me," I said automatically. Intent doesn't negate impact. A person who accidentally runs you over with their car still ran you over. The fact that they didn't mean to doesn't make your injuries less real. I sat with that. What happens now? I asked. Now you heal. You build a life that's yours, not theirs. You let yourself feel all the complicated emotions that come with family estrangement. And you remember that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. That evening, I met with Patricia again. She had news. Jake's attorney reached out, she said, sliding papers across her desk. They want to settle. My heart jumped. Settle how? He's offering to pay back $50,000 over 10 years. No interest. In exchange, you drop the lawsuit and sign an NDA. I stared at the number. 50,000. Out of 420,000. That's barely 10%, I said. I know, it's insulting, which is why I recommend we proceed with the full lawsuit. We have overwhelming evidence. We'll win. How long will it take? Potentially years. It'll be expensive, emotionally draining. Your family will likely close ranks against you, but you'll get what you're owed. I thought about years of court dates, depositions, seeing my parents' faces across a courtroom, Jake's lawyer tearing apart my character to defend his theft. Do it, I said. File everything. Patricia nodded approvingly. I'll have papers ready by end of week. As I left her office, my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Rebecca, it's Emily. My cousin. We'd been close as kids, drifted apart as adults. I'd heard through family gossip that she'd also gone low contact with her parents a few years back. Hey, I said cautiously. I heard what happened, with Jake, with the money. She paused. I wanted you to know. I believe you, and I'm proud of you. Something in my chest loosened. Thanks. I'm serious. What you did was brave. I know everyone's probably making you feel like the bad guy right now, but you're not. You're the only one telling the truth. We talked for an hour. She told me about her own journey going no contact with her parents after years of emotional manipulation. How hard it was at first. How much better life got after. The family is going to rally around Jake, she warned. They always protect the golden child. You need to prepare for that. I know. But there are some of us who see through it. Aunt Linda called me yesterday. She's horrified. She had no idea what was really happening. That surprised me. Aunt Linda was Mom's sister. I'd expected her to take their side automatically. Really? She said she always wondered why you seemed so stressed all the time. Now she knows. She wants your number, if you're willing. I thought about it, about expanding my circle instead of shrinking it, about the possibility that maybe not everyone in my family was lost to me. Yeah, I said, you can give it to her. After we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. The next few days were a blur of activity. Packing, coordinating with movers, final meetings with my Chicago office, phone calls with my new team in New York. And through it all, the messages kept coming. From Jake. I never wanted it to be like this. Please call me. From Mom. Rebecca, honey, we need to talk. This is getting out of hand. From Dad. Your mother is devastated. How can you do this to her? From relatives I barely knew. Whatever happened, family should work it out in private. I deleted them all, but I saved one. From Aunt Linda. Aunt Linda. I don't have all the details, but I know enough to say this. You deserved better. I'm sorry we didn't see it sooner. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. No judgment, just love. I read it 3 times, then I called her. Rebecca, she answered immediately. Thank you for calling back. Emily said you wanted to talk. I did. I do. She sighed. Honey, I owe you an apology. I've watched you bend over backward for this family your whole life, and I never said anything. I just assumed everyone was doing their part. I should have asked questions. You didn't know. I should have, she interrupted firmly. I'm your aunt. I should have noticed. The fact that I didn't is on me, not you. We talked for over an hour. She asked questions I'd never been asked before. About my job, my life in Chicago, my plans for New York. Not what I could do for the family, just what I wanted for myself. It felt revolutionary. Your mother is my sister, Aunt Linda said finally. And I love her. But she's wrong about this. She and your father enabled Jake for years, and now they're reaping what they sowed. You didn't destroy this family, Rebecca. You just stopped pretending it wasn't already broken. After we hung up, I sat in my half-packed apartment and cried. Not sad tears, not angry tears. Relief. 2 weeks later, I was in New York. The apartment was smaller than my Chicago place, but had better light. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Hardwood floors. A kitchen I might actually cook in instead of just surviving in. I spent the first week setting it up exactly how I wanted. Not how it should look. Not what would impress visitors. Just what made me happy. A reading chair by the window. Plants everywhere. Art I actually liked instead of neutral prints. A coffee table that was teal. Bright, ridiculous teal, because I'd always wanted one and Mom had always said it was too bold. Nora flew out to help me settle in. We spent a weekend exploring the neighborhood, finding the best coffee shop, the closest grocery store, the park where I could run in the mornings. You look different, she said on our last night together, sitting on my new couch with takeout containers spread between us. Different how? Lighter, like you've been carrying something heavy and you finally put it down. I thought about that. I think I have. How's work? Good. Really good, actually. My new team is incredible, and my boss, she's amazing. She actually asks about my ideas instead of talking over me. Revolutionary, Nora said dryly. We both laughed. Have you heard from them? She asked. Your family? Jake's lawyer keeps trying to negotiate. My lawyer keeps saying no. My parents sent a certified letter to my old address. The building forwarded it. I haven't opened it. Are you going to? I looked at the envelope sitting on my kitchen counter. Thick, official, my mother's handwriting on the front. Maybe, I said. Eventually, when I'm ready. And when will that be? I don't know. Maybe never. Maybe that's okay. Nora raised her glass of wine. To new beginnings. I clinked mine against hers. To choosing yourself. To family you choose instead of family you're stuck with. I'll drink to that. Work became my sanctuary. The New York office was everything I'd hoped for. Fast-paced, challenging, full of people who actually cared about results instead of office politics. My boss, Director Sarah Kim, called me into her office my second week. I wanted to check in, she said. See how you're adjusting. It's been great, I said honestly. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for taking it. Your work in Chicago was impressive. We're lucky to have you. She paused. I also wanted to say, I don't know what you're dealing with personally, but I saw your address change form said you're using a P.O. box for family correspondence. If there's anything you need, extra security, privacy concerns, HR can help. I blinked, surprised. I'm fine, just family stuff. It's complicated. It usually is. Sarah smiled. I went no contact with my father 5 years ago. Best decision I ever made. If you ever want to talk, my door is open, no judgment. I left her office feeling seen in a way I hadn't expected. That night, I finally opened the letter from my parents. It was 4 pages long, handwritten, my mother's neat cursive covering every line. Dear Rebecca, I don't know where to begin. These past few weeks have been the hardest of my life. To know that my daughter, my baby girl, could walk away from us like this breaks my heart in ways I can't describe. I won't pretend we're perfect. Your father and I have made mistakes. We should have asked more questions about the money. We should have made sure it was going where it needed to go. That's on us, and I'm sorry. But Rebecca, what you're doing now, suing your own brother, cutting us off completely, this isn't right. This isn't how families work. We're supposed to forgive each other, support each other, work through our problems together. Jake made mistakes. He admits that. He's willing to make it right, but he can't do that if you won't even talk to him, if you won't give him a chance to apologize properly. Your father is devastated. He doesn't say much, but I know he cries when he thinks I'm not looking. He keeps going into your old room and just sitting there. He doesn't understand how we got here, neither do I. I know you're hurt. I know you feel like we favored Jake, but that's not true, sweetheart. We love you both equally. We always have. If we pushed you less, it's because you were always so capable, So independent. We didn't think you needed us the way Jake did. Maybe that was wrong. Maybe we should have paid more attention. But we did the best we could with what we knew. Please, come home. Please let us talk about this like a family. We can work through this. I know we can. You're my daughter. I love you more than anything in this world. Don't let money destroy what we have. Please. Love, Mom. I read it 3 times. Felt every word designed to make me feel guilty. Every line crafted to position me as the villain. Then I put it back in the envelope and filed it away. Because here's what my mother didn't say. She didn't say Jake was wrong. She said he made mistakes, as if stealing $400,000 was equivalent to forgetting to take out the trash. She didn't say they'd hold him accountable. She said he was willing to make it right, as if that was magnanimous instead of bare minimum. She didn't apologize for the years of comparison, for the laughter when Dad said I'd never be as good as my brother, for missing every achievement, for making me feel invisible. She said they did the best they could. Maybe they did. Maybe their best just wasn't good enough. I picked up my phone and texted Dr. Chen's office to schedule my next session. Then I opened my laptop and started writing. 6 months passed. Fall turned to winter. The lawsuit crawled forward through depositions and document requests and endless legal maneuvering. Jake's lawyer tried every tactic, claiming I'd given the money as gifts, arguing family members couldn't defraud each other, saying I'd known all along where it was going. Patricia shot down every argument with evidence and precedent and a level of professional ruthlessness I deeply appreciated. We're going to trial in spring, she told me in January. His lawyer knows they're going to lose. They're just trying to drag it out, hoping you'll get tired and settle. I'm not settling, I said. Good, because I want to destroy him. Patricia said it with a smile, but I knew she meant it. She'd taken this case personally, seen too many women exploited by family members who knew they wouldn't fight back. There's something else, she said. Your parents want to testify. My stomach dropped. For which side? Jake's. They're claiming they believed the money was going to them, that Jake was acting as their agent, that you knew about the arrangement. That's a lie. I know, and we can prove it, but it means you'll have to face them in court. I thought about sitting across from my mother and father in a courtroom, having them look at a judge and jury and claim I was the one lying, defending the son who stole from me while painting me as vindictive and greedy. Let them testify, I said. I'm not afraid of the truth. But I was afraid, terrified actually. That night, I called Emily. They're going to testify for him, I said. I heard. Aunt Linda told me. Emily sighed. I'm sorry, Rebecca. I know you hoped they'd do the right thing. Stupid hope. Not stupid. Human. We all want our parents to choose us, even when they've proven they won't. How did you get through it? I asked. When you went no contact? Therapy. Time. Building a life that didn't revolve around their approval. She paused. And I wrote a letter I never sent. Everything I wanted to say, but couldn't. It helped. After we hung up, I opened a blank document and started typing. Dear Mom and Dad, I'm writing this letter knowing I'll never send it. Maybe that makes me a coward, or maybe it makes me someone who's finally learned that some conversations aren't worth having. You want to know where we went wrong? Here's the truth. You raised me to be responsible, independent, self-sufficient. And then you punished me for becoming exactly what you made me. Every time I succeeded, you moved the goalposts. Every achievement was met with, "That's nice, honey," while Jake got parades for mediocrity. I sent you money for 10 years, not because I was wealthy, not because it was easy, but because I loved you and I thought that's what family did. We help each other, but you never asked if I could afford it, never questioned where it was going, never wondered if I needed help too. You just took, and took, and took. And when I finally said no, you called me selfish. Jake stole from me. You enabled it. And now you're going to stand in front of a judge and defend him. That tells me everything I need to know about what I meant to you. I hope someday you'll understand what you lost. I hope you'll look back and see all the moments you chose him over me, all the times you could have shown up and didn't. I hope it hurts, because I'm done hurting for you. I'm done being the invisible child who gives everything and gets nothing. I'm done. Rebecca, I saved the document, closed my laptop, and felt something release in my chest. The trial was set for April. Spring in New York meant rain and budding trees and a sense of things beginning. I spent March preparing, meeting with Patricia, going over testimony, practicing staying calm when she played devil's advocate and attacked my character the way Jake's lawyer would. They're going to say you're bitter, she warned, that you're jealous of your brother, that this is revenge, not justice. Let them. They're going to bring up every time you were difficult or demanding, every argument you had growing up. They'll paint you as the problem child who always caused trouble. I know. Can you handle that? I thought about the Rebecca who'd sat at family dinners forcing smiles, who'd sent money she couldn't afford because she thought it would make them love her, who'd shrunk herself down to nothing trying to earn approval that would never come. I'm not that person anymore, I said. The trial started on a Tuesday. Cool morning. Cherry blossoms just starting to bloom in the park outside the courthouse. I wore a navy suit. Professional, serious, my armor. Patricia met me at the entrance. Ready? No, but let's do it anyway. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, more intimate, which somehow made it worse. Jake sat at the defense table with his lawyer. He didn't look at me when I came in, just stared straight ahead, jaw tight. My parents sat in the gallery behind him. Mom had been crying. I could tell from her swollen eyes. Dad looked older than I remembered, gray, tired. Part of me wanted to go to them, to fix this, to make it okay. That part was getting smaller every day. The trial lasted 3 days. Patricia was surgical. She presented bank statements, social media evidence, text messages where Jake explicitly lied about where money was going, emails where my parents asked him about Rebecca's contributions, and he gave vague non-answers. She called character witnesses, my colleagues who testified about my integrity, my financial advisor who explained I'd delayed retirement contributions to afford the family payments, Nora, who described the emotional toll she'd witnessed. Jake's lawyer tried to argue it was all a misunderstanding, that I'd known the money was going to him, that I'd approved his investments. Then Patricia showed the jury Jake's Instagram, every expensive purchase, every humble brag about being self-made, every post that contradicted his claims of intending to pay me back. The jury's faces said everything. On day 2, my parents testified. Mom took the stand first. She cried through most of it, talked about how I'd always been distant, difficult, how Jake was sensitive and needed more support. We thought the money was coming to us, she said, dabbing her eyes. We had no idea Jake was... We didn't know. Patricia's cross-examination was gentle but devastating. Mrs. Martinez, you received monthly texts from your daughter about these payments, correct? Yes. And you never asked to see a bank statement showing where the money went? We trusted Jake to handle it. You trusted him, but you didn't trust Rebecca enough to verify she was actually sending it? Silence. In 10 years, you never once confirmed the money was arriving? We assumed, you assumed. Based on what? Did you see your mortgage payments decrease? Did your expenses go down? I don't know. My husband handles the finances. So you don't actually know if you needed the money at all? Mom's face crumpled. We thought we did. Patricia pulled up our family budget, showed the jury that my parents' income exceeded their expenses by a comfortable margin, that they didn't need my money, had never needed it, they'd just never said no. Dad's testimony was shorter, angrier. He kept insisting I was destroying the family over money. That family should forgive, that I was being vindictive. Mr. Martinez, Patricia said calmly, your daughter sent what she believed were emergency funds for 10 years. Did you ever thank her? He blinked. Of course we did. Can you show the court a single text, email, or card where you thanked Rebecca for these payments? Silence. Can you name one specific time you acknowledged her financial contribution? We thanked her. I don't remember exactly when. But you remember every time Jake helped you. You have Facebook posts praising him, birthday cards thanking him for being such a good son, but nothing for Rebecca. Why is that? She didn't need the praise. She was already successful. So success means she didn't deserve gratitude? No answer. Patricia let that hang in the air before returning to her seat. On day 3, I testified. I told the truth about growing up as the invisible child, about sending money because I thought it would make them see me, about Jake's lies, about the moment at dinner when they laughed and said I'd never be as good as my brother. Jake's lawyer tried to rattle me, asked why I'd never verified where the money went, suggested I was negligent, implied I'd given the money freely and was now having buyer's remorse. You never asked for receipts, he said. Never demanded proof. Doesn't that suggest you didn't really care where it went? I trusted my family, I said simply. That was my mistake. So you admit it was a mistake? That you should have known better? I should have known they'd lie to me? Yes, I guess I should have. The jury shifted. I saw it. The moment they stopped seeing me as the problem and started seeing me as someone who'd been betrayed by the people who should have protected her. The verdict came back in 4 hours. Guilty, fraud, theft, breach of fiduciary duty. The judge ordered Jake to repay the full amount, $420,000, plus interest and legal fees. Total, $560,000. Payment plan, $2,000 a month for the next 23 years. Jake's face went white. His lawyer immediately filed for appeal, but Patricia was already shaking her head. They'll lose, she told me outside the courtroom. The evidence is too strong. He'll be paying you back for the rest of his life. I looked back at the courthouse doors, at my parents emerging, supporting Jake between them like he was the victim. They didn't look at me, just walked past like I wasn't there, like I'd always been invisible. Rebecca, Patricia touched my arm. You did the right thing. Then why doesn't it feel good? Because you're not vindictive. You're just someone who finally stood up for herself. That's not supposed to feel good. It's just supposed to feel like survival. I nodded, felt the weight of 10 years lifting, felt the future opening up ahead of me. And I walked away from that courthouse knowing I'd never have to see them again unless I chose to. For the first time in my life, the choice was mine. That evening, I sat in my apartment with takeout and a glass of wine, watching the sunset paint my walls gold. My phone buzzed. Aunt Linda, proud of you. Dinner this weekend? Me, I'd like that. Then, Emily, you did it. You actually did it. How do you feel? Me, free. And finally, Nora, the eagle has landed. Justice is served. When do I get to celebrate with you? Me, this weekend. Bring champagne. I set my phone down and looked around my apartment, at the life I'd built for myself, at the future that was mine now, not theirs. Someone once told me that the best revenge is living well. They were wrong. The best revenge is living authentically, building a life so aligned with your values that the people who hurt you become irrelevant. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you've finally stopped caring what they think. 1 year later, I stood in front of 200 people at a conference on family trauma and financial abuse. My name is Rebecca Martinez, I said into the microphone, and I'm the daughter who walked away. I told my story, not the sanitized version, not the one that made anyone comfortable, the real version, with all the pain and betrayal and the moment I finally chose myself. When I finished, the applause was thunderous. But better than that were the people who came up afterward, the ones who said me too, and thank you, and I thought I was the only one. I'd started a blog 6 months earlier, The Invisible Child's Guide to Freedom. It had 20,000 followers now, people healing from similar situations, building lives outside toxic family systems, learning that it's okay to choose yourself. Emily had joined me in running it. We posted resources, shared stories, created a community for people who needed to know they weren't alone. You're changing lives, Dr. Chen told me in our last session. And you changed your own first. That's the most important part. I couldn't have done it without you, I said. Yes, you could have. You just needed someone to tell you that you were worth saving. Now you know. My job was going well. I'd been promoted to senior VP. Sarah had become not just a boss, but a mentor. Someone who saw my potential and made space for it to grow. I'd started dating someone. Carefully, slowly. Someone who understood boundaries and respected them. Who didn't push for family introductions or ask why I didn't talk about my parents. "When you're ready," he said. No pressure. I hadn't heard from Jake. The payments came automatically, garnished from his wages at the warehouse job he'd finally gotten. He'd had to sell the Audi, move back in with our parents, give up the lifestyle he'd built on my money. I didn't feel bad about it. My parents had sent one more letter. I'd opened this one. It was shorter, colder. They said I'd made my choice, that they'd made theirs, that they hoped someday I'd regret what I'd done to this family. I wrote back once. Only once. I don't regret protecting myself. I regret that I needed to. But I'm not sorry for surviving you. I never heard from them again, but I heard from others. Aunt Linda became a regular presence in my life. Dinner once a month. Holidays when I wanted company. She apologized more than once for not seeing what was happening. I told her it wasn't her job to save me. That was mine. Emily and I grew closer, built the kind of sibling relationship I'd always wanted. The kind where we celebrated each other's wins and showed up for each other's struggles. Nora remained my person. The friend who'd been there through all of it, who'd held me when I broke down and pushed me when I needed it and never once made me feel like I was too much. "Found family," she said, raising a glass at my birthday dinner. "Better than blood." "Always," I agreed. The final payment from Jake would come in 22 more years. I'd be 58. He'd be 55. Both of us middle-aged. Our parents probably gone by then. I wondered sometimes if he'd ever understand what he took from me. Not just the money, the years of second-guessing myself, the relationships I'd sacrificed, the parts of myself I'd hidden to make them comfortable. Probably not. But that was okay. I didn't need his understanding anymore, didn't need his apology, didn't need anything from any of them. I had something better. I had myself. On the 1-year anniversary of the trial, I threw a party. Not a big one. Just the people who mattered. Nora, Emily, Aunt Linda, my work friends, my new boyfriend, the community I'd built. "Speech!" someone called out. I stood up, glass in hand, looking at the faces of people who actually saw me, who celebrated my wins without diminishing them, who showed up. "A year ago," I said, I walked out of a courtroom having proven I was right. But you know what? That wasn't the victory. The victory was walking out knowing I didn't need them to admit I was right. I just needed to know it myself. I paused, emotion catching in my throat. For 35 years, I thought family meant blood, meant obligation, meant sacrificing yourself to keep everyone else comfortable. And then I met you, all of you, and I learned that family means the people who see your value, who celebrate you, who show up when it matters. I raised my glass. To chosen family, to healing, to the beautiful life that exists on the other side of setting yourself free. "Hear, hear," they chorused. Later that night, alone in my apartment, I opened my laptop one more time. There was an email from someone named Jennifer. Subject line: "Thank you for sharing your story." I read it. She'd been sending money to her sister for 8 years, had finally questioned where it was going, found out similar lies. "Your story gave me the courage to stop," she wrote, "to say no, to choose myself. Thank you for being brave first." I replied, "You were always brave. You just needed permission to use it. I'm proud of you." Then I closed my laptop and looked out at the New York skyline, at the city that had become my home, at the life I'd built from the ashes of the one I'd left behind. My phone buzzed one last time. Nora. Nora. "You still up?" Me. "Yeah." Nora. "Just wanted to say, I'm proud of you. Not just for what you did, for who you became." Me. "Thanks for seeing me when I couldn't see myself." Nora. "Always, that's what family does." I smiled, set down my phone, and finally let myself feel it. Peace. Not the kind that comes from having it all, but the kind that comes from knowing you're enough, exactly as you are, without performing, without proving, without earning it. Just enough. My parents had said I'd never be as good as Jake. They were right. I was better. Not because I won a lawsuit, not because I made more money or had a bigger title, but because I'd done something they never could. I chose truth over comfort, freedom over obligation, myself over their approval, and in doing so, I'd finally become the person I was always meant to be, the invisible child who learned to see herself. And once I did, I realized I'd been visible all along, just to the wrong audience.